How to be a god over all your problems. Now, as you can see, this video is slightly different to the ones that we've done before. Me and AJ are trying something new. We'll see how you lot react to this. But how to be a god over all of your problems. Now, it's important that you understand that God actually made you a god over your problems. But because you don't know that, you can't be that. And your ability to be able to harness what God means, which we're going to have to redefine for you so you can actually understand what it means to be a God over your problems without the blasphemous connotations. So with that being said, the first thing that I want to do is to actually redefine what true blasphemy is, because with the religious indoctrination that you've received, just like the one that I received, the way that we begin to view these things, it can almost be a bit audacious to even conceptualize of you being a god over your problems. But you can be a god over your problems to the point where your problems don't suffocate you in the way that I know they're suffocating you. They don't cause you the anxiety that I know they're causing you. They don't cause you the stress that I know they're causing you. It's just about being able to harness God. And we're gonna get into that in this video right here. By the way, if you lot actually like this, if you genuinely like this whole whiteboard style thing, drop a comment and let me know. Now, first things first, like I said, when you first clicked on this video and you saw how to be a god over all your problems, blasphemy alarm bells were probably ringing off in your head like crazy. You probably had some pastor, maybe TD Jakes in your head saying devil this, and probably a Pentecostal scene, right? Now, it's important for you to understand what true blasphemy is. And I say blasphemy from an esoteric standpoint. What true blasphemy is externalization. And what externalization is quite literally in the name. It is when you externalize your divinity, your holiness, the God within you, outside of you. Now, what this looks like is this. Take church. I grew up going to church. Now, going to church, niggas put on their best clothes. They move a certain way. They don't talk a certain way in church. They conduct themselves holy in church. They have more reference for what's external to them as opposed to what's internal to them. Which is why in Corinthians it says, do you not know that the spirit, you have the Spirit of God in you, that you are the living temple of God? Now, that's an example of what true blasphemy is. And believe it or not, I'd probably say it's safe to say that 98% of the world engage in true blasphemy. They look outside of them as opposed to realizing that you have everything you need within you already. You have everything that you have within you to possess the ability to create the reality you want. So believe when I tell you, it's not blasphemy. Don't worry, you're not gonna go to hell, yada, yada, yada. Now, first things first, we actually have to redefine what God is, which is quite a philosophical question that as humans we are going to have some humility for, because what is God? Right? People might say God is a man sat in the sky. I know religions portray God to be sat in the sky. The idea of God sitting in the sky doesn't make sense, because for God to sit on a throne, that means he has a bottom, that means he has elbows, that means his feet can be planted. But we know this is nothing more than the conceptualization of God from a human standpoint. So the first thing that we have to do is to actually come to the understanding that because our minds are finite, we could never conceive of the infinite. That's the first thing. Now, what is God? I'm going to break it down to you from a metaphysical point of view. Now, this goes beyond the religious indoctrination, the religious programming that will make you think he's a man, because he's not. Well. Now, what God really and truly is this. This is the easiest way I can help you conceptualize it. Impersonal energy. God is impersonal energy, but a specific kind. The highest level, also known as the Most High. Now, why is God called the Most High? Because it is the most high frequency. God is the highest level of consciousness, which is an impersonal energy. Now, to give you an example of what I mean when I say impersonal energy, think about gravity. Gravity is impersonal. Now, sorry for this morbid example, but it will help you conceptualize what I'm trying to say. Take a innocent baby thrown off a building. That baby is going to hit the ground and die. Gravity isn't going to be like, nah, hold on, he's cute, he shouldn't be here. No angel's going to come catch him in midair like Justice League. It's just not happening. Now, take Batman. If he threw an evil old man off a building who had mad serial killer, let's say, he's going to hit the ground and meet the exact same fate as the baby would. Why? Because God is an impersonal energy. Now, esoterically, this is mentioned in Acts 10:34. If you go to Acts 10:34, it will say, God is no respecter of persons. Let's take electricity, for example. Electricity can be used to power a city. It can also be used to kill somebody. Now, if somebody gets electrocuted to death, did electricity have a personal vendetta against him? No, it didn't. It's impersonal. It doesn't care who you are. It acts regardless of however you use it. Now, what often happens is that people believe that God is punishing them. Really and truly, you're just sticking a fork into an electric socket and getting shocked. You wouldn't be like, electricity hates me. You simply misused that energy. Understanding that God is impersonal energy, and let me write this down so you have no confusion of what I'm trying to say here. Understanding this, then the way that you should begin to conceptualize God should completely change. Because the way that you define God is actually how you experience God. Now, I'll give you an example of this. Now, if you believe that God is a God of anger and he gets angry when you do things, then by definition of you utilizing that energy, you will then experience that particular reality of God. One thing that I never understood is that when I was growing up and we were struggling financially and going to church and stuff, I could never understand, why would God allow some people to be broke and some people to be rich? And I came to find out that really and truly, niggas worship different gods. And I'll tell you that for free right now. And I'll give you an example of this. How many times have you thought to yourself or prayed to God and said, God, if you give me this job, I won't ask you for anything again. I won't ask you for anything again. And think about the way that you're characterizing God. Think about the way you're molding that formless energy that has no form. What you are really doing to that energy is defining it. And the way that you define it is the way that you form it, which is the way that you experience it. And if you try and negotiate with God like he's a stingy African man, then unfortunately he's going to be stingy. While some people see God as an infinite, abundant God that wants to bless them in the way that they want, which is why they experience that. Now that we understand what God is, just to reiterate, impersonal, formless energy, then a whole bunch of things make sense. Now, there's a scripture in Isaiah, I don't remember what specifically it is, if it's 35 or 45, but I'll get AJ to put it on the screen, where God says something to the effects, and this confused me when I was Christian. I could be like, what? Because you're told that it's the devil that does all the evil and stuff like that, and it doesn't make sense. But then if you go to Isaiah, it stated something to the effect of, I make the peace, I make the evil. Then he also says something to the effect, I'll get AJ to put it on the screen when I'm talking. He says something to the effects of, I form the light, I form the darkness. I make the peace, I make the evil. I also form the suffering. I, the Lord, do all of these things. So then it's like, what does that mean? And it's alluding to the fact that however you have formed God is how you experience God. The highest level of consciousness exists within you inherently, being a manifestation of God. And the way that you use it will be reflected in your reality. Now, you can use this to transform your reality, and you can also use it to destroy your reality, which more often than not, we always allow these things to destroy us. Now that we understand what is God on a metaphysical level, just to reiterate, highest level of consciousness, impersonal energy that doesn't care who you are, then it's like, all right, cool. How do I become a God to my problems? What does that even mean? It still doesn't make sense, Nero. I never thought you'd ask. Before we do that, we have to actually realize who you have been worshipping, who your gods are. Now, I ain't gonna say Jay-Z and Beyonce and all them nigga conspiracy videos. That's not what we're doing here. What we're doing here is to give you real practical metaphysical information that you can actually use to transform and create your reality without all the corny stuff. It's exactly why I'm hired by elite entrepreneurs. Now, with that being said, it's important for you to understand who you have allowed to be your God. You've allowed worry to be your God. You've allowed stress to be your God. You've allowed chaos to be your God. You might have allowed poverty, but let's say struggle. You've allowed all of these things to be your God. Now, what does that even mean? I thought God is the highest level of consciousness. How have I allowed worry, stress, chaos, and struggle to be my God? How does that make sense? Once again, I never thought you'd ask. Now, it's important for you to understand how things become your God. Now, for most people, like I said, it's safe to say that 98% of the world, which is always the number used in these spiritual literatures, 98% of the world worship stress, worry, chaos, and struggle. And you do from time to time, and I do from time to time. But it's important for you to actually understand how these things become your God. So it's like God, highest level of consciousness, impersonal energy, that makes sense. How does something become a God over my life? Well, for something to become the God over your life, all it has to do is this one thing. All it has to do is to have a stronger frequency. That is it. That's it. That's literally it. For something to be the God over your life, all it has to do is have a stronger frequency. If it's got a stronger frequency over you, then you're holding a big L. Now, unfortunately, for most people, and as I said, the 98%, they can be characterized as the 98%, they allow those things that I mentioned to be their God. They allow worry to have a stronger frequency than them. They allow chaos to have a stronger frequency. I'm pretty sure I spelled that wrong, but hey, who cares? They allow chaos to have a stronger frequency than them. They allow worry to have a stronger frequency than them. They allow stress to have a stronger frequency than them. They allow struggle to have a stronger frequency than them. They allow failure to have a stronger frequency than them. And this might be you. From time to time in your life, your frequency is always oscillating. I know these spiritual niggas will tell you that you can be high vibrational all the time, but you can't. Unfortunately, that's just not how it works. Your frequency is always oscillating, as shown in Dr. David R. Hawkins' level of consciousness scale, and also Frederick Dodson's book called Levels of Energy. Now, for something to be your God, all it has to do is have a higher frequency. Once again, I'm reiterating this for repetition. Repetition is one of the ways to program the subconscious mind. The other one I'll tell you on another video, or maybe later in this video. But whatever has a stronger frequency than you at that particular moment in time will be your God. And if it's your God, then that means you submit to it. And I'm not talking about in a diddy way. I'm just talking about in a way that you quite literally feel like you're being suffocated by your problems. How many times have you felt suffocated by struggle, suffocated by failure, tormented by stress and worry that seems inescapable over your reality? And it all comes down to it having a stronger frequency than you. Whatever has a stronger frequency than you will temporarily be your God. Because remember, God is the highest level of consciousness. God is the higher level of consciousness. And throughout our human existence, there are periods of time where these things end up defeating us. Now, it's important for you to also understand that when I'm talking about stronger frequency, the world that we live in isn't like the old world. And this ain't no caveman stuff as it used to be, if you believe in all of that stuff anyways. But the world that you live in is governed by something else. Now, it's important for you to understand, and I know I keep saying that a lot. Technically, all of this stuff is important for you to understand because this is the information that people will die never knowing. So you shouldn't take that lightly. And this shouldn't be something that you watch for fun to pass the time. So if you're doing that, please leave. In the old world, strength was determined by one thing: physicality. Physical strength. This is what the old world was governed by. Put OW for old world. Yes, I'm getting lazy writing. However, it's important for you to understand that as consciousness evolved, as human beings, and our level of awareness evolved, we entered a new world. And the new world is only governed by one thing. And that thing, frequency. The new world is quite literally governed by frequency. In the new world, whoever has the strongest frequency wins. Quite simple. So then you're probably thinking, okay, how does somebody have a higher frequency than somebody else? What does it mean for worry to have a stronger frequency than me at any given time? Well, once again, I thought you'd never ask. Now, strength of frequency can be summed up into one sentence. One sentence and one sentence only. So make sure you're locking in and make sure you're taking notes. Don't just be watching me to pass the time. I'd rather you not watch at all. Now, as I was saying, it all comes down to one thing. What does it mean to have a stronger frequency? What does something have when it's stronger than me in frequency? Comes down to one thing. The strongest frequency all comes down to this one thing. The strongest frequency is determined by your ability to maintain conviction in your idea / belief. That's who has the strongest frequency. The strongest frequency, whether reality over you, whether another person over you, is whoever has the ability to maintain conviction in their idea or belief. Conviction being the most important word here. I'll give you an example of what I'm saying. So let's say you get something that stresses you. Now, typically, let's say emotionally, you're quite balanced. You're quite balanced as such. Your ability to be able to maintain emotional balance is an indication of your level of conviction. So like I said, let's say you're trying to do better, you're trying to maintain some sort of emotional balance, and things are going fairly cool. Let's say something comes out completely out of nowhere, and it immediately stresses you out. You're no longer emotionally balanced. You are up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. You have failed to maintain emotional balance, and really and truly, never forget what emotion truly is. Emotion is energy emotion. Which is an energetic signature that we call a frequency. Which is why when you look at Dr. Hawkins' scale, he's mapped the most common human emotions down to energetic signatures. Now, as I said, you're going through your life, things seem to be calm, a client leaves you, for example. You fail to get a job, you get fired from your job, somebody's trying to give you drama. The moment that you are able to deviate from a state of emotional equilibrium or balance, this is an indication of your level in conviction in whatever it is that you're trying to hold. So if I'm maintaining peace in my life and I believe that I'm an abundant individual and I'm going down a path of being able to materialize the financial goal that I want, and I get a parking bill and I've got no money and the parking bill couldn't come at a worse time, or somebody robs my front bumper like what happened to my editor, and I immediately go into a state of emotional chaos, I have deviated from my emotional balance, which is an indication of my level of conviction in my specific level of peace. And the strongest frequency is determined by your ability to maintain conviction in your idea or belief. Once again, to reiterate, let's say that there's a certain financial target that you want to hit. Let's say you want to make 100K a month. Let's say you're at 10K a month. Now, each and every single time that money is withdrawn to your account, you see 10K. Now, if you then look at your 10K and it's able to sway you emotionally away from maintaining that you're already at 100K, then this is an indication of your level of conviction in your belief that you are somebody who's already at 100K, because you can only have what you already have. And if you are emotionally swayed, then that means your level of conviction is only one thing, and that thing is weak. And a weak level of conviction is a weak frequency, which means that the strongest frequency will be whatever is able to sway you from maintaining conviction in your idea or belief. Now that you understand what is God, things in the world that are your false gods, and it's not no celebrities, we don't care about the Illuminati or none of that stuff. Let all the silly people play with all of that. We're focused on controlling our reality, because any form of spirituality that doesn't lead to self-mastery and mastery over reality is vanity. So y'all niggas can go do that silly stuff. But anybody who's seeking to maintain and create their desired reality and make the best use of their ego, which is nothing more than a vehicle that you're supposed to master to get you to a destination, that is true spirituality. As it was said, know thyself and thou shalt know all. Now that you understand all of these things, then it's like, I get you, Nero. But it all does sound a bit suspect. You said I can be made a god over my problems. It's a bit mad. I'm struggling to, accept that idea. Well, it's esoterically hidden in the Bible. Now, I went to a lot of church sessions. I even went to a weekend church sessions where I saw people supposedly get demons taken out. Why don't pastors perform miracles in hospitals? But anyways, I was never shown this particular scripture where God actually made Moses a god. Yeah, God made Moses a god. And Moses, he's no different from you. Moses was simply somebody who had the ability to harness the impersonal energy of the highest level of consciousness, which was God, which is what Christ represents. Now, it can all be summed in one particular verse. Exodus 7:1. Now, because I'm not a complete robot and I don't want to get anything incorrect in reciting the scriptures, I'm actually going to pull it up to make sure that we are all on the same path. Now, Exodus 7:1. And the Lord said unto Moses, See, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron, thy brother, shall be thy prophet. Now, it's important for you to understand that God literally, and you should be seeing it on your screen, God made Moses a god to the world around him. And he also made you a god, but you forgot that. And it's esoterically hidden in Exodus. Now, when things are your God, it's like what we spoke about earlier, this is when things seem to have a level of power over you. Now, this actually reminds me of one of my clients. Shout out Nicole. I'm very, very proud of you. Nicole joined the Awakened Entrepreneurs Secret Society, making 9K a month. 9K a month. And throughout this time, just like what we're talking about right now, she was tested by all of these false gods. She was tested by worry, stress, anxiety, deals going wrong, clients not returning calls, people, avoiding her, whatever. She went from 9K to 62K. And you really need to wait for this to dry because, it keeps messing up. She went from 9K to 62K, and I'll put a screenshot in like 2 months, just by being able to maintain exactly what I'm about to tell you right now. So if you're an entrepreneur that's interested in that, in being able to multiply your revenue without working harder, just simply using the Awakened Entrepreneur Frequency, the link in the description. Now, like I said, Exodus 7:1, God made Moses a god to Pharaoh. Now, it's very important for you to understand the context of what Exodus represents. Now, in Exodus, there were the Israelites. The Israelites were enslaved by the Egyptians, specifically by the head of the Egyptians called Pharaoh. Now, it's very, very important for you to understand the esoteric nature in these stories. Now, first things first. Pharaoh represents oppression, represents, how can I say this? Evil. But evil, not in a way of actual evil, but typically as human beings, we categorize things as evil whenever they seem to go wrong for us. But we know evil is nothing more than duality with good. The same energy, different vibrations. But Pharaoh represents oppression, evil, enslavement, which are all things that happen to you. Now, here's the thing. You are Moses. You are Moses, Pharaoh is the world. The world will attempt to enslave you and oppress you. And I don't mean that in a sense of the 9-to-5 matrix system. I'm not talking about that. I'm simply talking about the negative aspects or the negative energies in reality that seek to dominate you by making things in your life go wrong. We've all experienced these things in our lives where it seems like the world is just trying to do us wrong. Really and truly, this is nothing more than the negative aspect of our duality simply being materialized into reality through our unawareness. Now, Pharaoh represents enslavement, oppression, and evil. Now, you might be having problems in your life right now, whether those problems are creating anxiety, whether they are creating worry, whether they are creating stress, whether they're creating business problems, relationship problems, family problems. This is what Pharaoh represents, problems. And you are Moses. Now, the context of Exodus is very, very specific. Now, Moses went onto a mountain and then he came across God. And he basically gave Moses a bunch of instructions to go free his people. And then Moses turned around and says, but who should I say sent me? Because, I can't really see anyone right now. I just see like a bush that's on fire, but it's not being consumed. Who should I say sent me? And God said, tell them, I am sent you. I am hath sent me unto you. That's the specific verse. It'll be pulled up. Now, it's important for you to understand what the I am is. The I am is exactly what we were talking about earlier. It is the highest level of consciousness. If this is the name of God, every time that you meet somebody, what do you say? You say, hi, I am Nero. When you're angry, you say, I am sad or angry. When you're hungry, you say, I am hungry. When you say, I am stressed. We utilize the name that God gave to Moses in Exodus so often, and it's because unconsciously, subconsciously, internally, spiritually, you are the physical manifestation of God. You know this inherently. Now, what it truly represents is formless substance. The am refers to the present tense of what you're currently declaring yourself to be, which really and truly is the now, which is the only time that exists, because time doesn't exist outside of our third dimensional realm. It's merely a construct within it. And the I is the physical manifestation of God, which is exactly what you are. Physical manifestation, physical. And only when Moses received this revelation from God, the I am principle, the formless substance that you form with your mind, did he and was he able to then become a god to Pharaoh. And Moses became a god to Pharaoh. Why? Because he was able to maintain the stronger frequency. And the stronger frequency was a result of the stronger level of conviction in the belief that Moses had, as opposed to what Pharaoh had for the enslavement and the oppression. And once again, all of these stories are nothing more than metaphysical, metaphorical explanations of what happens within you. Because the whole Bible is really about you. Shouldn't be reading it like a history book, or it would get very dark if we go to some scriptures. Now, with that being said, the specific verse to which I was reciting when I said, I am hath sent me unto you, just for the Bible bangers to make sure that you are satisfied, is Exodus 3:14. Now, like I said, the I am principle, it's your God self. It's the formless aspect of you that is ready to materialize whatever you then move it into. So it's important for you to understand that the only way that you can become a God to your problems is to have a what? You should have said it like wherever you're watching it. You should have just said it out loud. You can only become a God to your problems once you have the stronger frequency. And how do you have the stronger frequency? By being able to resist being emotionally swayed. Because your emotion is energy emotion, which is energetics, which is the energetic vibration that creates a signature that we call a frequency, and that frequency then deviates you from the ability of whatever it is you're trying to materialize. So to cut all of this and to summarize it into this simple point, if you want to be the God over your reality, you need to have the stronger frequency. The way that you have the stronger frequency is being resistant to being emotionally swayed. Reality is going to try emotionally sway you. When things go right, they're also going to go wrong. When things progressively seem to be getting worse for you, you should understand that this is nothing more than the world or reality trying to dominate your frequency. And the only way that you can have the stronger frequency is if you're able to maintain conviction in your desired reality. Anytime the world can make you deviate from being in the state of being in the frequency of your desired reality, then you will literally be worshipping worry, stress, chaos. And the only way that you can maintain that level of conviction is through practice. That is literally it. It's discipline, which is one of the most unused words in this entire manifestation space. I'm not going to bullshit you and let you think that you can just run around, you know. There's a certain level of conviction that you have to have in whatever you're believing. If you want to enter this reality, then you need to be able to maintain that you're already there. When something shows up in your world, like it says in John, you know, don't judge by appearance, but judge by righteous judgment. The righteous judgment, it's all coming down to this one thing. It can all be summarized into two words. Two words. And the people that fail to materialize their world and the people that are worshipping the gods of worry, chaos, and stress, they all fall for one thing that you cannot fall for. And I'll end it with this. Eyesight versus mindsight. You need to be able to understand that the world that you're living in is nothing more than a product of your mind. Each and every single time that you are able to take reality for what you see it to be, you're falling for the illusion of reality, and this is how things become your God. Everybody who has something else as their God, as opposed to their desired reality, the highest level of consciousness, God, is because they're all falling for their eyesight. So once again, maintain that level of conviction. I'll see you on the next one.